Hey everybody, welcome back to your favorite media response show. This is X is for Show, and you can check us out all over the internet at exactly that, X is for Show. As for me, I'm Nico Action, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NicoAction.
And you can find me at TK Elemental.
And you can find me at Peak Jonah, that's Peak.
And I'm Tori. You can find me at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I.
And that makes me your producer, Kevo. You can find me at Kevo Really. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and leave us a comment so that we can know what you want us to cover in the future. But today we are going to be covering some acting. Acting, darling.
Sure. Yes, it was acting.
No.
Because it was acting.
It's the most I've liked RuPaul's acting.
You know, and I gotta say, I think that might be because she wrote it, directed it, and starred in it.
And had a teleprompter right there on each side.
And also did not mind when she went off book. Yeah. So I want to start this whole thing with where this whole thing started this past week, which was with Roxxxy drumming up the silliest drama. Roxxxy Andrews herself made a World's Fair Expo out of who she's going to cut. And then the second somebody else did a little bit of like a soft shoe for it, she was like, I don't like how you treated it. You made it a joke. You made it a game. No, I'm not here for your Tasha salad. And I'm just like, no, you are the fool. And so I don't know. I thought it was a weird way to start the episode.
It was a weird way to start the episode. It was a weird way to start the episode, and I was furious. I was absolutely fuming because I thought she does say something like, she's like, you got so emotional about it. And I was like, Roxxxy, you were crying. Like, it was terrible. I was mad at you when you were doing it, so don't you dare. But then I will say, so I went through the episode pretty pissed when they were all getting ready for the challenge. They do have that moment where Roxxxy is specifically like, no, like, I went and thought about it, and, you know, it is a difficult decision to make, and last week you all probably thought I was crazy. And for once, I will say, there was a lot this episode where I was like, this feels like the normal editor who comes in and doesn't make everybody sound insane, who has been like maybe pushed off to the side for the last 3 seasons of editing this show, was brought back in to like just do a filler episode. Because there were a bunch of moments. Got Mick also talking about just like, she's not really even talking about anything. She's just kind of being like, oh yeah, like, people have bad times, and like, people have I had a bad day. I was having a bad time. And just talking about it a little bit, I feel a lot better. There was just a bunch of stuff this episode where I was like, even though they managed to show people being and talking crazy, they cut in a moment later where it kind of redeems itself with somebody being like, this is crazy. This is like, let's all acknowledge this. And it's something that has often been missing for Drag Race for me, that like, I went in with the same chip on my shoulder I've had about this season, and right in the middle of the episode, I was like, oh, maybe I'm kind of enjoying this one a little bit.
How about you guys?
Sometimes when queens will say things like what Roxxxy said, part of me has to go, production makes you do that. Production makes you make a whole meal and show out of it. What are you talking about? Like,
and you know that, yeah.
So sometimes it comes across a little weird that they want them to pantomime, you know, being this, ooh, who am I gonna choose? Ooh, am I going over here? No. Yes, no. And it just felt a little weird to get upset over that. You know, forgetting the irony of what happened the week before, but it was just one of those moments of, okay. And then, like, as TK said, when they're having their mirror chat, she's like, yeah, I was just in my feelings. I kind of just need to get over it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I respect that they A, showed that, but B, that as a person that shows a tremendous amount of like emotional intelligence, which is great for humanity and great for them personally. Maybe not so much for TV, but
yeah, I mean, for me, I was spending a lot of that time like really looking at it and being like, do I find Angeria like, oh, it was so sad and difficult. How could I oh my God. And putting it up against how I felt about Roxxxy. because I like Angeria. I historically have not liked Roxxxy very much, for all I respect her craft. And I was like, no, I'm still mad about this. I was like, this is just comes back to the same idea of, if you're going to cut someone, look them dead in the eye and say, yeah, this is what it's about. So I don't know what her excuse is going to be at the end of this for her choice at the end of the episode, though. That's beyond me.
And it's funny because when last week Roxxxy was voted, or 2 weeks ago was voted most likely to deny the outcome of the season, I really thought about how that played into the beginning of this episode. And I think Angeria's bad decision at the end of this episode, it was a fine bad decision, but it was a bad decision, but it was a fine bad decision. I think that plays out into Angeria being delusional. So we got so much to talk about. Kevo, as we were watching this, you were like, nope, no, Petty, no, Lori Petty, get off the road, Lori Petty.
Am I missing something? Is it not a Tom Petty?
Well, there's also a Lori Petty. She's an actress.
Right.
But so one of the
petticoat.
things I thought you'd be like, oh, yes, I did. But so then one of the things that it also led to as the episode went on was when we got to the actual challenge, like the mini challenge, I thought the fruit in the legs undercut the seriousness of that moment in like a funny way. I don't know. I did think the fruity challenge that kicked this thing off was a little odd. It felt a little like they forgot to mention that it's because this is the Olympics.
Yeah, it does sometimes continue to feel like they forgot or maybe remembered at the last minute that this is the Olympics and we should have done something with that, because every now and then they throw in this weird stuff. Because, this was a weird one. And how does this connect to the acting challenge?
I'd be real honest with you guys and cut in and say right now, until you started talking about this, I did not realize that this is an Olympic summer.
It is one of those things where if you turn on NBC, if you're the one person who turns on NBC,
in a decade. Truly. I was like, what's the Olympics of drag? We do call it, and I like really quickly Google it. Like, is it the Olympics?
No, I had the same thing. I was like, oh, is that why they're all Greek and stuff in the trailer? Is it supposed to be an Olympic season? Like it was like goddess season at one time or whatever?
I really didn't think about that. Wow. Hilarious that this is their best mini challenge idea for doing anything.
If so,
Olympic. Yeah. I mean, this is, I don't know.
Because it seriously might have been rude just going, it'd be fun watching them put fruit in their legs.
Although I refuse to believe that was a rude pit. I think that was a junior production kid who was like, he got his first pitch and he was like, I don't know, like maybe they like run fruit through their thighs. I don't know.
As Chapel Rowan put it, some twink really had a good idea.
Yeah. I'm always so fascinated by these athletic ones, because I love when they bring out the athletic ones, the athletic challenges, because I'm like, aha, finally. There's always a couple of them who are like, yes, I too played basketball at one point.
I mean, the egg one was wild. Like, that takes real control of your pelvic floor.
This was church game at the church barbecue. This is what they play. This is what they do.
Anybody who has done a Buffalo Bill before could make this
which we all have done.
We've all done it. So I don't know. This one I was like, come on, you actually all should be doing better at this.
Put the lotion on the skin, or else it's the hose again. To their small credit, mini challenges often don't have anything to do with the actual challenge. They're often just humiliate people on TV for likes and views. Yep. They keep bringing it up on the pit stop because I think because of season 13, they really put people in baby. We really had adult babies on this show. No shade to them. No disrespect to that community. But it was just a little. I don't know how to feel about it.
Well, and then of course poor Nina, the butt of the joke.
Nina looking like one of those retired women who jogs in Florida every morning.
I've had this theory that like part of what's going on week after week is somebody gets in there and is like, I called my agent and they said they would fix it. And like, I feel like Nina keeps calling her agent and being like, no, don't.
It's
Not
fine.
yet. It's okay.
I
need to
think
make a
I think
plan.
Nina doesn't know you can call your agent.
And that's part of where like I feel like Nina is being treated like a like a booger by production. Like she's getting boogered out and boogered down. And
I feel like she's teaching production how to treat her. I don't.
But I do hear what you're saying.
But they don't have to.
Like rise above, guys. Come on. This is Satan's asshole, but we all expect you to be a little bit more real.
I just feel like it's not her best season, and I feel bad about it. But also, like,
It's only her second.
Well, I've seen so much Nina West out in the world post season 11. I mean, like, her Hairspray run has been epic and iconic. She has been very successful in just like viral videos and social media stuff.
Disney.
She's had a few, she had a book. She had been a really important face of things like drag book readings, drag story hour. So like there are some people, and I say this a lot, where I'm just like, maybe you don't come back on this show that like you are really coin tossing what's going to happen in terms of like, maybe production just isn't that nice to you for whatever reason. Like maybe they just kind of get a kick out of fucking with you. Maybe they think it makes good TV, but also maybe you're not the best at Drag Race, and that's okay. It's not for everybody, and this isn't even the only show about drag. Like maybe you would kill it on Dragula, but it just feels like, I don't know. For me, it just feels like she's not that great at Drag Race.
It's funny. Something you're saying makes me think about an exchange that was being had at the beginning of the episode, where, like, as always with these queens, nobody is completely in the right on any conversation.
Yes.
But I was I was reacting to Nina's reaction to Plastique talking about how she's so untalented, she doesn't know how this keeps happening. And Nina kind of, overreacting, not necessary. But I feel like part of her reaction was to say to Plastique, like, you're not a nobody. This is All Stars. And you're walking around like, I'm not really that good. Like, no, we're on All Stars. And I think that's a similar thing to what you're saying.
But then Rue has to say it to Nina.
Yeah,
later in the episode.
Like, it's weird to hear Nina saying that to somebody. Nina needs to hear it. It's
that
like
was
Roxxxy. Where is the dissonance?
That was another thing, though. There was another moment where I was like, I actually do kind of like this, because the insecurity and weakness and having to, and also Rue not being weird, like that was her most cogent pep talk in a really long time.
Well, so, okay, I want to get to that, because this is something that I keep thinking about. The winner of I believe Drag Race Peru had been asked, and she was on setting it straight. Or, I'm sorry, give it to me straight, talking to me straight. The tokenism show, and she said that she didn't want to come on a show not in front of Rue. She only wanted to do a season if she was being judged by Rue. So when she was offered Canada versus the World 2, she turned it down, or won. I'm sorry,
it
I
was
can't remember.
Envy Peru, not.
Oh, it was Envy Peru. Thank you so much, and she was the winner of a different season. I thank you so much for correcting me. Because these things matter. These ladies have names, even though they make them up on the spot.
And we want to know.
So no, we do want to know. By the way, Action is my legal birth name. So it gets me thinking about what a Rue pep talk is worth. And it's one of those things that I think, like, we all sort of think about being in a classic Scorsese film or acting alongside epic level Robert De Niro from those, the Hollywood heyday. I would rather, probably get the torture scene in Playback. But I feel like one of the things that's happened instead of Rue's compliments becoming more, let's go with bad and sad, she's actually kind of taken on a more mentorly role the more she doesn't do anything. The more she
Mhm.
doesn't really sing, the more she doesn't really dance, the more she just kind of sits at a table and goes, yes. I feel like the things she says has more weight because it takes so much more energy for her to speak. I'm kidding. That was just like a fun roast joke. But truly, I think as she's aged with wisdom, even when it doesn't come across in the show. I think the pep talks have more value now than ever.
I think when they're great, and this was a really good example because again, she had like talking points, she had facts. You know, she pointed out to Chanel. Oh, sorry, and I said it was Nina. It was Chanel that she gives the pep talk to. You know,
Which
she
is
says
such a
like
nice full circle moment for Chanel.
truly,
She is beautiful.
and she says, you know, you are one of the most famous drag queens in the world, and you have been for 15 years. Which those are just all true things.
I mean, yes. Jonah and I had a little conversation about this where we both went, world famous, huh? But I will say, supermodel to Drag Race season 1 is 15 years. And Chanel's start to now is 15 years. So technically, both her and RuPaul have now each had, from when Ru started this, 15
when
years.
you think about it,
I
how
wanna-
many... What?
I want to defend World Famous actually for a second.
I was about to as well. So
Yeah, I just
go.
want to say, you and I lost our shit at the announcement that Soul Coughing is going to go on tour. Literally, one of the best things I can think of in my lifetime is Mike Doughty getting back on a stage with Soul Coughing. What an incredible opportunity! But like, there's a band that I'm strangely defensive of, and I know it's so stupid, but like, I'm so defensive of Godsmack for some reason. And like, they had a really big sales year. They had like the #1 selling vinyl in the world for a month. And like, do most people think about Godsmack when they think greatest rock bands of all time? No, but how many of us have had a #1? I feel like that is world famous.
Well, yeah.
So I think Chanel's world famous. She was on Drag Race twice. She was there with those talented winners twice.
I mean, 3 times. You know, she was also on. She did season 1 of All Stars. So
That was his second one.
Oh, this is the third.
This is number 3, right? I'm a chrono baby.
That's fair.
Number 3rd in the voting. Yes.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I don't know. Like this was a really cogent pep talk from Ru, but I don't think it has been a straightforward slope. I think as recently as in this season, definitely a bunch in the previous season of just regular Drag Race, she has given some just completely out there nonsense talks. I think all of the talks in which she encourages people by saying that they're stupid are totally nonsense, and that word now means nothing when it comes to defining Drag Race humor.
That's an amazing point. You're stupid.
You're so stupid. I love it.
And we even got there with Georges and her wig. We got another.
This is hilarious.
It's so dumb because it was in a box. So like, I don't think it is a 1-for-1, but I will say that she has given a few in the past few years where I do feel that there is clearly some of her wisdom has shined through. A lot of the early ones were also not smart, but they were really emotional and touching. Smash cut to Roxxxy Andrews, we get to choose our family. Like, that's, I mean, It is kind of true, but it's also like, as gay people, we also are stuck with the families we have and don't always get to choose them and have to do a lot of work with that. But like, it was a really beautiful thing because she was essentially, saying you are part of my family now. So I don't know. It's been all over the place. But I really did like the speech to Chanel, and I thought she was right.
She was right. And I also it was one of those moments again where RuPaul, even though RuPaul's in front of a camera, I think that was RuPaul trying to be a little more genuine than she normally is on camera. Is not in a bad way. Ru is very TV presenter host, and she's very presentational, very, I don't want to say performative, but it's a very specific part of her persona. She has a TV persona, truly. And I think that was a little bit of her trying to be like, hey, you're a legend in this business. You need to start treating yourself like that. Because we all see it. That's why we invited you here.
That's why none of the girls have tried to peck at you for having 0 stars because of the respect.
that is one of those things. So Jonah is actually a horrible influence and said, you guys so we had just finished Ken Burns' Jazz and Ken Burns' Civil War, and we were talking about what to watch next. And I said, what if we just
Civil
sit
War?
back? And what if we just sit back and listen to A Concise History of the Universe by Stephen Hawking? And he said, I have something better. Let's watch Claim to Fame. And so we watched 2 seasons of Claim to Fame in 4 days because it is gross and I love it more than anything except Traitors. And I bring all of this up because people were talking about how I'm here with a family member. I'm here because I'm a family member with a Grammy. I'm here with a family member because of a Grammy. I think their highest honor is a Grammy. And like 3 different times, Kevin Jonas just goes, must be nice. And so I just want to be really clear that like when we talk about like I really think his name is Buju Bantu, and I might be mistaken, but there's a Zydeco musician who has like 7 Grammys simply because there's nothing to be nominated against.
That is not Buju Banton, but keep talking.
Thank you. But there's people who have huge awards for not having enough recognized competition. But
Trixie Mattel playing the auto harp.
Actual yes. Actual literal yes. And I just think that Chanel, I don't know. I'm very defensive of Chanel. I thought
I
she was
love Chanel.
As we all
I
should
love
be.
her.
I thought she was kind of a joke in season 1. And I think I am so blinded by how much I love Chad that anybody in a season with Chad, you're second. But I would love to see how I would feel about Adore Delano in a season with Chad. That would be tough. But I ultimately just feel like Chanel and Nina are kind of getting treated like the treatment of Chanel and Nina reminds me why Susan Harris created the Golden Girls in the first place. Because there's a caliber of woman, or in this case, drag queen, that we just think is funny to kind of at. And I don't love the rhetoric of it, but I think that the show is making strides to elevate those queens beyond what the Reddit posts might say. And for that, I just think it's really cool.
I think you're right. I just think it's unfortunate that the show can't put into practice a set of challenges and production that those, because again, what I'm getting at is like Nina and Chanel aren't good at Drag Race as it is now. I think Chanel kind of has never been good at Drag Race period at all. But she's great. And like the other thing is like a lot of times you can measure the success by their careers outside of Drag Race very clearly. Chanel is very well known for being successful in Las Vegas. She's fine. This is not somebody who I'm like, I pity her because she's pathetic. Like there are queens, I'm not going to name them, but like they're not good at Drag Race and then they don't have careers outside of Drag Race either. Like we all know who we're talking about. There's a bunch of them. And one of them got compared to Charlie XCX recently, and that's all I'm going to say.
Real quick, while he's there, Raven is the most perfect human.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I
Raven
laughed
got
so
slapped.
hard for this. Laughed so hard.
I think literally Raven can't make a mistake. I think Raven is like Emma Frost, where she came in a little bit after everything started, but whether or not you realize it, she's secretly been running things behind the scenes and she always knows the good looks. And I just love Raven so much.
I do think the skin tone is maybe a bit of a mistake, but
it's problematic and it's upsetting. And I'm really hoping the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew get together to try and solve this mystery because it is going to take hundreds of novels to solve this one.
So like Chanel and Nina just, I think, unfortunately, at the end of the day, are not great at what Drag Race is, but they are so clearly fine in their careers that it's one of two things. Either maybe don't come, but also maybe the show, if it's really going to extend that hand to great queens who especially like are accomplished and, you know, maybe especially for ones who haven't been on Drag Race in a while, if they can't give them a really solid onboard and give them opportunities to shine a little bit, I sort of do look at them and raise an eyebrow.
All right, well now I'm thinking about WoW Presents creating like a Drag Race specials. Where you just, like, get
that's what I wanted this whole time.
Of Nina West.
I think that Nina West should be their go-to game show host.
Yeah.
I think that there should be some sort of regular queered out drag race Hollywood squares.
I mean,
and
I think
Nina
she should
West
host
be the
their
game
Sesame
show.
Street.
I would love that, except
yeah.
I
I know
She's on
we-
drag tots.
no, I just really want all of this franchise to stay the fuck away from puppets. It's bad when this franchise comes close to puppets, so it needs to not make a.
But
a
everybody
market-
loves puppets.
No,
I'm
they don't,
confused.
Rue. Some of us do not love marionettes.
this is you. Okay,
well,
yeah.
this-
I
okay,
forgot.
this
I
is
always forget
specific.
about this.
It is not specific. It's the way people don't love clowns.
Well, yeah, but you're not talking about puppets as a whole. You're talking about marionette.
I'm also talking about the fact that puppetry is an art form that people study for decades before they
true.
go on TV with it. And saying to a drag queen, "Stick your hand up this ass and make a joke," isn't always the
No,
same
they would
thing as
interact with the
puppetry.
puppets. The puppeteers would be puppeting the puppets, and then Nina would talk
But-
to the puppets.
My concern is production, not the performers.
And I question how many drag queens, like what is the pool of talent to pull from to produce that entire show in the first place? Yeah.
James Mansfield.
You mean Trixie guest star James? Those of you not watching the second season of Trixie Motel, which is Drag Me Home, you are missing out on 45 really lovely, harmless minutes. So go watch it.
I don't necessarily think this in and of itself is a bad challenge on paper and kind of in practice, and I have to say kind of. But I think it ran a little long, and just every single scene being the exact same thing was a lot. It was funny when Nina did it. Angeria stood out. Mick was pretty good. Other people had like little moments that were like little nuggets of funness that was like, ooh, exciting. And then but I think the rest of it unfortunately fell a little flat in terms of just. There was also like, Rue knows how to act, so Rue standing where she was, looking the way she was, works for TV. A lot of them were not really looking at Rue, were kind of just looking off at the camera or looking elsewhere, and it was, I don't know if you're critiquing this in terms of like acting, like actual acting, that felt a little weird that like there wasn't, we saw them literally give notes. I don't understand why no one was like, hey, do you want to like turn a little? It just...
Yeah,
Just,
I agree. I think they were all looking at the teleprompter. I think they went off to learn their lines, and then they saw there were teleprompters and just went, yeah, no, never mind. I don't need to remember anything.
Which is actually part of what I was talking about with the puppetry. Puppetry is an actual art form, so when you say, oh, anybody can do puppets, it's fun.
Exactly.
No, then everybody's just kind of sticking their hand in some fabric. It's actually not the art of puppetry any more than me smearing some red lipstick across my face makes me a drag queen.
Because clearly not everybody can act either. So if all
He
these
really
things are
is
so
acting
easy to
now.
do,
And that's the one that eats me up inside. If you're a bad actor, it's kind of okay. Because look, like everybody went to 10th grade where you have to do a scene, and it's fine. And if you're not a great public speaker, that's fine. Everybody took public speaking in 11th grade. You know, and I'm saying everybody in a very colloquial, general way, but of course there are people for whom that is not part of their curriculum, and so this would be a great challenge. But the general populace is expected to have interacted with these ideas. I can make allowances for rough acting. I can make allowances for not knowing your blocking. But what I thought really came through here was some girls are natural at everything they do, and some girls really benefit from the staging time and the ability to control the outcome. Plastique is a drag queen on par with so few others in her echelon. Like, I mean, her echelon is so high up, so few people compare to her, right? But Plastique's delivery often felt like she doesn't remember that acting is about just kind of like saying things you would say. It's just saying specific things. That's where I think Nina and Angeria really did set this challenge apart a bit. Chanel also was somebody who I felt like forgot this is supposed to be her performing as vaguely a version of herself. How did you guys feel about the sort of acting curve that we had to deal, not like we had to deal with, that they had to deal with? Because like these scenes were written for them, chosen for them, blocked for them, and they were given them based on very few. Only Roxxxy has actually had 2 acting performances before this. So what did you guys feel about some of these scenes that went on a minute too long, were 5 jokes short, and really only sought to elevate Rue? Not Rue's fault, it's her show. Put your damn name in the title and you can be elevated too.
Yeah,
Hey, Mark, thanks for dropping by.
Hey, Mark.
Hi there. Chanel did not excel in this, and it was too bad because you could see that she has the tools to do a great acting challenge. She just, for one, she was clearly nervous, and that was where we got to the talk, because Rue said, like, what was going on? And she was like, I was just worried that maybe I couldn't keep up. And you can kind of see that. Like, she's just not getting it. When you compare that to Vanjie, who I never am charmed by Vanjie's shtick. I'm never charmed by Vanjie's shtick.
I love her.
I really don't. I feel like I could have a fun time with her if I was directly interacting with her and when we were becoming friends. But I don't.
There's a line for me too. So
yeah,
I
just don't always enjoy it on TV. And I'm never automatically going to be like, oh, Vanjie's going to do her thing. I can't wait to see what happens. But this
Vanjie gonna give it to you.
Immediately when she was like, when she started dancing, I was like, this is actually funny. But it's not. It wasn't good. Like compared to Angeria and some of the other people, it was not a top 3 performance. But it was better than it was. It made up for the fact that she was not a great actor, because she put enough of herself into it and she let go. And she was a little bit silly. And when you compare that to Chanel, who just kind of froze up and worked really hard, but it's that thing of like she wanted it too much. And Vanjie, you can just kind of always feel the just don't give a fuck. And comedy kind of often is more likely to benefit from just not giving a fuck than it is from really giving it your heart and soul and wanting it so bad. And you saw a few people who were kind of in between. Roxxxy, I do think, had a similar thing to Chanel, but was just a little more chill about it. But again, like, isn't really a natural comedian, has never in these acting challenges been willing to just like let go and be silly.
Let loose.
Yeah, you gotta let loose.
Roxxxy and Nina, in different ways, figured out where to stand so that Rue doesn't upstage them the whole time. Yeah. Roxxxy went shoulder to shoulder. Nina stayed far enough away that she could just take up the entire frame and it didn't matter.
I mean, they're also both enormous.
Right, right.
And compared to Rue, who is also enormous.
Right, yeah.
So Tori,
I thought that was the both you meant.
You have such experience with blocking, staging, and like the technical aspects of acting, understanding where somebody is on point, where somebody is maybe like, hey, I'm going to walk you through like Upright Citizens Beginners Brigade. How do you feel about the, let's say I am kind of coming to it and being like, so everybody, I'm looking for Uta Hagen, not Uta Hagen-Dazs. And so like, how do you feel about my unreasonable standards? Because they are, absolutely unreasonable. And how do you feel about the way the show treats the quality of performance?
I think the room was set up to show off Rue the best. There is no reason to have the track laid so that you can zoom in and out on Rue be at a 45-degree angle to the fourth wall. There is no reason for that other than to say we only care about Rue. Because if you want them to face each other and have teleprompters, they need to be on opposite sides. And so Rue was set up perfectly to be like the center of the room. But then anyone who comes in has to face like where Nina is facing, where you're facing southeast. And or down left. And it doesn't make it so that you can look at each other. So then that's up to the actors to figure out how to place their body. And if you don't know it, you're left with a lot of things where if you watch enough seasons of Drag Race, you figure out that no one at the judges table actually looks at each other. They're all delivering lines straightforward, and it's strange to watch. So
it's actually off to the side to the right. Like if this is the stage,
it's like
they're like actually
angle.
Over here. They're at an angle.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's
wild.
for all those cameras. And it's, I forget, it must have been season 15 because I just finished that. But there was a point where Rue was like, you can do whatever you want, but you got to get out of mommy's camera because her camera is in the set. It's not in front.
That was last week with
with Angeria going back and forth. Can I take a minute to pray?
And so you can pray, but get out of mommy's camera.
Yeah, because her camera's back there. Like, that's the trickery that's going on. But the trickery in this one is to make Rue the center. And so the girls never had a shot because it's already operating at a level that is generally above almost all of them. Roxxxy stumbled onto it because she will just take center no matter what you do. And Nina actually knows what she's doing.
I just want to point out that I heard that Rue actually wasn't even here this entire season, and she has been photoshopped into all of these scenes.
It's AI.
And she doesn't travel.
I spent the entirety of All Star 6's like lip sync back into the competition being like, is this happening right after the runway, or is it happening the next morning? Because I can't tell if they're just photoshopping in like the guest judge going woo at random points from the other lip sync, but whatever. That's a conspiracy theory for another day. But yeah, no, this was set up to make it so that everyone looked good because they all knew their lines and they all seemed to have good blocking and they all looked really pretty and they all were like in camera at all times. But it was also set up so that they definitely did not look as good as Rue in the scene. I will also say that as someone who has never seen any of these movies because I'm a terrible gay, I could definitely tell that from the general zeitgeist, Vanjie was not doing Showgirls outside of the general idea.
Kind of.
There's no two people could be more not alike than Nomi Malone and Vanjie. Like, it just.
I think Carl Weathers would do a better Nomi Malone.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, even when I said Pretty Woman, I really meant she's the Laura San Giacomo character, not Julia Roberts.
America, I'm coming home.
What Beyonce song is that?
Where? We say when. How much?
I want to say that one of the things that really struck me in this sequence of events was, as you just said, that was not Nomi Malone. But you know what? 85% of the time, the match game character, the Rusical, they're not even close. Right. They're just funny in their own way. And that they were like, Vanjie, you didn't get the assignment right, but you were funny in your own way. Like, it was new to them, was a little bit like, do you watch the show, Tamar? Like, I was shocked because, like, as somebody
Rue hates the color green, so
as somebody who watches these Rusicals, and I'm like, that doesn't sound anything like the song, the genre, the artist, anything, but it carries the notes of it. I feel like if you impersonate a character really well, it doesn't matter if you get the voice right or not, or if you get the intonation right or the mannerisms. If you have 1.5 of the 3, you're set. So, like, you can just basically wear a green tight jacket and go, I'm Susie Orman, and everybody knows what you're doing, good or not. And that's sort of the crux of this challenge. I think we're sometimes meant to be like, oh, look how they're honoring like this campy queer movie. They're really not. It doesn't matter if they're honoring it or not. They're just using the name. And that's kind of enough. And that stretches back to something I said a million zillion years ago in a different version of this show 1,000 times about a thing in comics. But it's kind of here too. We see people go, oh my God, she's always so funny. And I'm like, is she always so funny? Or does she say the same things all the other girls do in the confessionals? And we project funny onto them. Not that the girls aren't funny, but the edit of them winds up being kind of generic. Last episode, Plastiques, in the roast, Plastique said she's not shady, she's not bitchy, she's not mean. This episode, she went shady, bitchy, funny, that's me. And like, but you just said it wasn't you last episode. That's not about the girls, because we all say those things. We all say my favorite color is red, my favorite color is blue. It's the way the editing kind of manipulates the dolls sometimes. Yeah. And I just sort of feel like this acting challenge was unfair to all of them by saying, this is your role. This is what you're playing. We wrote it for you. And I sat with Jonah and I asked him, Jonah, you are my drag race guru. If I were in a cave, I would ask you to be the canary. And I said to him, what were the what were the challenges, the acting challenges that led to this. And he was able to build an incredible list of the fact that most of these girls have only really had like one, maybe two proper acting challenges. And looking over it, I do not know how Angeria in Daytona Wind led to this.
Sometimes it takes somebody a little bit of, they've never done this before, so their first shot at it, because oftentimes many queens don't have TV experience, camera experience. Even though you are a drag queen and part of that is acting, you're playing a character. Sometimes
they're not all Willem.
No.
You must own a television. I think once you're back the second time around and you're the glamour of Drag Race is gone, and you know the production people, you know who they are, you know the camera people, and you can feel just a little more comfortable. I think it's easier to let yourself excel because there's not that pressure of I have to be amazing. There's also not the pressure of nobody's going home. I think they were talking about a little bit on the pit stop that because it's not an elimination season, you don't have that worry of I have to do amazing because otherwise I'm going to go home, and sometimes that can get into people's ways into their performances because
it colors your performance.
No complaints. Maybe a little complaint. Little complaint for the road, just a little complaint. When because it's not an elimination, I think because they can focus on the challenge and doing much better, it lends themselves to being able to excel a little bit more because there's no pressure of going home. So there isn't any of that anxiety that might inflict them because I have to do well. I have to do well for the people at home, for my town, for whatever. I want to win this. Even though they do want to win this, it's not the same kind of pressure. And I think that lends itself to sometimes better performances, which is why people like Angeria, who in Daytona Wins did great, but I think other people just happened to do better that episode. There was an episode where nobody did bad. There was an episode of full. They had a top.
The writers didn't do so good on the one there with the joke about the farts for 8 minutes.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
They ain't passing wind.
I think, and I don't know if there's anything else because I don't want to I should not ramble, but I do think that that's where that comes from for the people who did better the second time or the third time around. Though I think Roxxxy's the only person who got to do 3 acting challenges. This is also Chanel's first acting challenge on Drag Race, which is kind of new territory for her, and even in the sense yes, it's been a while since she's been on. Especially from the time from All Stars 1 and Season 1. They keep saying 15 years, even though I guess everybody likes to pretend All Stars 1 didn't happen, except for that. Yeah, Chad has a crown. We don't know about any Season 4 winner besides Chad. And it just, I think that's one of those things where Snatch Game can be really difficult the first time if you've never done it. Even if you do well, Snatch Game is very difficult. The second time, you have a little bit of understanding of what to expect. So in theory, it should lend itself to a little bit of better performance. I do think Chanel was at a disadvantage just in the sense of, even though it's been years, even compared to someone like Roxxxy being on, because they're the only 2 people who are prior to a season that's not a double digit, what you do in an acting scene is all the same. This is your mark, these are your lines, you say them, you deliver it with however they want you to deliver it, you take your notes, you do it again, and that's how it goes. I do think that Chanel was just at a slight disadvantage in that sense, that this is completely uncharted for her in terms of her Drag Race career. And I want to say her entire career, just specifically the Drag Race career.
Can I be a big shiny faggot about something? Because you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. And the way you're not wrong is the way that I feel sometimes a little critical of framing it as this is the blank challenge, when it's not really the blank challenge. It's a couple of things people recognize from blank. I think part of what made Nina able to sort of ascend the ranks of the judging here was that she clearly did see a pathos in the character. She actually thought about what generates a character, where somebody like, Vanjie, who found it in herself to just be funny, or somebody who even like Chanel, who has the training, but struggled to find the pathos in this character. I feel like that's a little different than Plastique, who felt this isn't for me. I'm not meant to be funny like this. And I kind of, it's so weird because I don't think anybody does it on purpose, but we all sort of do it. When we say, oh, well, obviously Mariah Carey has the biggest vocal range, let's compare every woman with a large vocal range to Mariah Carey. We shortchange Ariana Grande's and Christina Aguilera's by making them just some shade of another brilliant, amazing woman. And I think sometimes what happens when production asks Plastique, well, how do you feel about how funny Nina is? How do you feel about how everyone laughs at Banji? I think sometimes what happens is we passively neg people with other people's relenting compliments to get a reaction. And so I wonder if the very funny, very intelligent, incredibly talented Plastique would have gotten a better shake if she had been more included in the process and included in the experience. And I'm eager to see Drag Race continue to elevate that platform for these brilliant performers, because every one of them is an A+ in something. Every one of them is a gold medal. But asking a gold medalist in weightlifting to compete in the luge is crazy.
Right.
And so that's sort of like why I think the top two had to be Nina and Angeria. Which, you know, we just had an amazing broadcast about the best songs, the best original girl group type songs from Drag Race. And thinking about Angeria's performance in My Baby Is Love, you can literally see a performance there. And I feel like you saw it here again. And so I love this top two. How did you guys feel about my top two for the whole season? Hey, got your number 3, but that doesn't mean that you're not special. How do you guys feel about my top two being top 2 this week?
Well done, mama.
Very happy for you. I spent this week realizing that the ones they talk about in deliberations are the ones they like. So,
You're the best.
I did not catch that before. I was just like, wow, it's weird. They only talk about some of them. Crazy.
That's the clue in the audience who could potentially win the episode, even though you can kind of tell.
As we were watching it, Jonah said, I can't remember the third person, but Jonah goes, and none for Chanel and Plastique.
Yeah.
This was, I probably would not have picked Nina. She was not bad at all, but just I think maybe for me even I might have picked Gottmik. I just thought.
Oh, could you elucidate on why? Because they loved Gottmik as well. I didn't get it. Like, I thought she sounded like Gottmik, but like there's artistry in that. Would you mind like just kind of elaborating on what you liked about it, like in a positive way? Like, I'm not like challenging. I'm eager and excited.
They actually they said something that I felt like there's no reason why this should have worked, but they said, you know, the scene is actually they are acting very sweet to each other, but being very cutting. You were just being cutting. And something about I don't know, like Gottmik spends all her time with Violet, who also cannot do sweet, but there's shade underneath the smile.
Wait, no, that's impossible. She can change outfits in a moment. She can go from sweet to shady in a single flip of her dress.
She can do all of it in her fashion. She cannot do it in her face or her voice or tone. And Gottmik, like, and I feel like Violet can't even just do sweet, period. Like, not even sweet with cutting under it. She just can't do sweet. Gottmik can do hey Gorge, and like she can do her kind of thing,
but the California nice.
Yeah, but there's never really reads under it. Sometimes she can be very shady, but that's really clearly that's what it is. So yeah, it is that she was just kind of doing Gottmik. I think she got selected for a scene in which just doing Gottmik actually could kind of work, even though I might have been more impressed seeing a queen that could really emulate the original scene. But I feel like most queens were not able to. Like Roxxxy did not give Diana
Dynasty.
Carroll
Yeah.
at all.
I think what they liked about Gottmik is something that they talk about a lot in these, which is ease and confidence.
Thank
You
you.
cannot
those are the
tell
words I was
me.
looking for earlier.
You cannot
Thank
tell me
so
that
much.
Gottmik walks into any room nervous and shy. Like, that's just not who she is. She's gonna roll up and, oh, you happen to have a teleprompter? Great, but I still know what I'm doing. And
Tori,
just
you won't get
cruise
this,
through.
but she's shy and outgoing.
Yeah.
You'll learn about that next season.
I don't know. I'm shy and outgoing, and I'm equal.
And I'm equal.
I forgot who said that because she was such a wallflower. Continue.
Yes, she was. We love her.
A flippin' wallflower.
I do agree. I think Gottmik was probably, if you wanted to choose somebody else, I do think Nina was chosen based off of her stellar acting performance. I think because Nina is a strong actor, and I think that, and the way I'm hitting actor, that she was able to really deliver something that was like, oh, this is really good. And we kind of had to reward somebody who did really good.
Yeah.
And I think, even though I don't think she was necessarily the funniest, I thought she acted the best and did what she needed to do to really deliver a pretty stellar performance. And I do think they were right in that Angeria has a natural ability to find the little nuggets. Like when she was calling for the money, she was like, that. It's very similar to how when she got her win on season 14, you ugly bitch.
Yes, we say that 10 times a day. Yes,
ugly.
Oh,
Like just
so
making
much.
it 3 syllables is hysterical. Just that intrinsic knowledge that, oh, I know this will be funny, and that she can kind of trust herself is really, really, honestly, really fun to watch. It's really enjoyable.
and I just want to add to that. Like, I think you're really right that there are moments that they choose to like almost like unite a secret mini arc for a single performer, and I see what you mean exactly by like ugly bitch came through again in this episode.
I also will say this was probably my favorite Nina runway that we've had. I didn't like the cover
in the world,
but I
Yes,
loved
yes,
what
yes,
she had
yes.
underneath it. I think this was the perfect blend of what the prompt was and what Nina's style is. Nina gives a style, I'm going to say a name. She reminds me of the drag that Chris March did. That it's the very theatrical, everything is bigger, everything is better. Then that's kind of the drag that she talks about she grew up with, and I think that's the drag she emulates. I don't always know if it translates to runway for fashion, but I do think that this was the best of both worlds for Nina, and I do not know Nina, but I was incredibly happy and proud that she was able to deliver something like this on the runway, and having that, you know, still keep it campy, still keep it big, still keep it drag, but still look gorgeous. Like, I love the color palette. I think her makeup looks great. So I think she just had an overall a really strong night. And Angeria, this is perfection.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think everybody did pretty well this. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Well, I'm so glad, Kevo, would you mind going back to Plastique for 1 second? Because I don't think this is a ding. I think this is a celebration, and I wish we could talk about it a little bit more fully. When Plastique displays the beauty of her culture and the incredible magic that is her heritage, she is showcasing who she is on such a deep level through the makeup, through the fashion, and I love all of it. And I don't think it's unfair that it would seem unkind if the judges had an untoward opinion on it without being very, very careful. It's a TV show. You've got writers. You could make the language sound, I was going to say make the people sound right, but you could make the language always be right so that it reflects what the people really feel, which is, I love the look, but maybe there's construction issues. Not that this has a single construction issue.
Oh, this is...
It's certainly more of a
Right.
concern about the optics for this than it is for this.
Yes. And so I find myself thinking about the value of having, as TK has suggested 1,000 times, different versions of Drag Race, and maybe a Drag Race that says American cultural diversity influence, where like all of these incredible queens who are proud Americans who want to showcase the things that have made them so proud of where they're from and who they are. I would love to see them get a chance to do that in a way that elevated everyone's culture on the same level. Just because Plastique does it so well, there's just no reason not to take it a step further.
And I think that's one of the coolest things about drag is when people come deeply from a heritage. Like, even as somebody who did it with as much like fun and camp as Geneva Carr, Geneva La Diva Mas Latina, like there were not a ton of moments where she was like, let me tell you about my culture, but she wove it into everything she did. And so many fun moments, and just like so many iconic looks. And there are queens. I mean, like Plain is another one who, like, so it runs the cultural gamut. It doesn't just need to be, queens that come from non-white, non-American associated cultures. Like so many people bring their heritage into their drag, and so I think that could be a really real competition, because it's not exclusionary. Like, that's not a show I would ever really go on because I don't have any touchstones to any heritage stuff that I would tie into like my visual looks. But I think that's one of the things that makes it really great is there have always been this kind of self-selecting group of queens who have said, no, part of the whole personality of this girl that I'm bringing you is that I was raised, by these parents, or like I come from this culture, and that informs my drag. That's not everybody, but for the girls who it is, that would be so cool to see how all of them approach that differently. Raja, another fantastic example.
Yeah. I've seen rumblings online though that the positive critiques from judges comes for fashion that is considered more elevated, or cultures that are more elevated, and people who bring their backgrounds that are a little more street level, a little more low income kind of communities kind of get shafted because the look isn't elevated. And it's like, no, this is where I come from. This is the Selena S titties and Chola and all of this stuff just doesn't it doesn't get the same love because it's not as the culture itself isn't as elevaed as.
I think that's almost the argument for why you should do it.
I agree. I think we should.
Because I think that one of the real problems is, when you do come from a culture in which, not having a lot of money is part of the culture, and we get to these moments very regularly on Drag Race where the critique is like, oh, but it wasn't elevated, and what's actually being said is it doesn't look exactly. And no matter how many times they try and be like, we're just saying you should rhinestone every part of it, you would then call that tacky. Like, it's so, rather than like pulling away from the idea that maybe we think that we can judge other people's cultures based on these kind of random metrics that should apply to 16 different girls, having a specific rubric that is based around, did I get an experience of your culture by seeing this presentation, and not so much, was it elevated, would be a really interesting thing to just kind of see how the judging went down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Selena S titties is a great example of that, because in her first appearance, somebody says to her, well, then I'm Yolanda. And she says, Yolanda?
Why would you want to be Yolanda?
Selena S titties, the gift we all, as a proud Latinx man, like the gift we all deserve. Find your light.
Free Willy.
I can't. So, okay. I do think there was a little bit of robbery this episode, because I thought perhaps Nina gave a better lip sync to a phenomenal song than did Angeria. But I think Angeria
with this group.
I think Angeria gives what Rue wants, which is fun, sexy, big time. We talked a little bit about Roxxxy this episode, and only a little bit, because other than giving Raquel Welch for the gods, she didn't do too much for this episode. But Roxxxy is your favorite drag queen's favorite drag queen until Sasha Colby comes and does it a little bit better. And then I feel like, obviously, Chappelle Roan is your fave's fave. Chapel, thank you, is your fave's fave, clearly. I think Nina West is your fave drag comedian's fave drag comedian. And I think she is a certain level of classically trained that this show just doesn't really care about. The show doesn't love the vaudeville lip sync. This show loves the big sexy lip sync. Unless you're both doing vaudeville lip syncs, then Rue's going to go with the pretty girl. And so I think...
Good for Jinx. Versus Detox. They're both doing vaudeville.
Well, and they both have that nose. So I just feel like and the bigger the sexier. But I feel like giving Nina so if you are a dog owner, you'll know what I'm talking about. I feel like what they gave Nina tonight was the greenies of throwing him a bone. You give your dog the milk bone that he likes, the gravy one or not, but you toss him a greenie at the end of the night because it's good for him and he likes it, but he's not going to necessarily really be appreciative of it tomorrow. $2,500 instead of the ability to cut somebody, and $10,000. It was really cool that you cut her in, but remember, this is Broadway star Nina West, and at the moment, Rue, you're kind of seeming like the Wicked Witch of the East.
I think, looking back, reflecting, getting these screenshots and getting to rewatch the lip sync, I do think it probably could have gone either way. I think there's a really good argument that could have been a tie, but we already had a tie earlier in the season. I don't think they want to do that again. I do think, for my money, maybe Nina could have won just to help distribute money to the different charities a little bit more.
Yep.
And I say it this way: the show maybe doesn't always treat Nina the best, and sometimes it comes across, well, I don't know if Nina can make it to the top 3. I would love to see her there. I don't know if the show thinks that or makes me want to believe that. I think giving her a win here, giving someone a win, even if you know that they maybe won't go as far as they might hope or some of their fans might hope, I think is a really good argument to give them something like this. It's why, as amazing as they both did, it's why I think Jan should have won the Madonna Musical Challenge, because I don't think Jan was going to win the season. And I think that just saying, hey, you got to win. There you go. Reward her.
Co-signed.
She does.
I agree. I think, keep going, please.
Oh, and so I think that sometimes the show can maybe do a little bit more goodwill with that, in the sense of rewarding somebody a little bit more, even though we know maybe from the production standpoint they're not going to make it to the end goal. I think giving them the little nuggets here would bode well for fandom, but just for the queens. I feel like just respecting the queens a little bit more in that regard. All that is to say, Angeria gave a stellar performance.
Yes.
Wasn't like undeserved in any way, shape, or form. I do think this was Nina's best lip sync performance we've seen on the show.
I agree.
And so I think from the runway to the lip sync performance was a really good night for her. She already got the badge. That is what it is. And then Angeria makes the move that snips my heart, but makes the move that is quite possibly the smartest she could make. Because as crazy as we want Plastique Mathematique to seem that blocking somebody below you, punching down, is wrong or crazy, or why would you do that? No, block the person who has the most. No. Right now, Angeria, Plastique, and Roxxxy have 3 stars. They are the current top 3. Angeria, I believe, took a moment to see Gottmik is her biggest competition. Angeria might believe that if Gottmik is at the top 3 with her, she might not beat her. Stop somebody from closing the gap now before it becomes too late. Because if Gottmik gets the 3rd star, it's much more difficult to prevent Gottmik from getting to the top 3 if you're Angeria and this is your game plan.
Because part of the issue is if you're not making calculated moves in any way, shape, or form, you are essentially DQing yourself. You're essentially saying, I am going to help get someone more talented than me, you know, on some level to the end instead of trying to get it for myself. And you know, it's not exactly that cutthroat. It's not exactly that heartless. Again, no one's going home.
I think it might actually be that incredibly well thought. I want to say that, if I'm not mistaken, Angeria is fighting for the National Black Justice Coalition, and we're not talking about finding $10 for somebody to go grab a quick treat at DD. We're talking about winning hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's a salary.
Yeah. We're talking about doing something that will change lives. And while I personally would love to say that the numbers game here is smart, because Jonah, you are so right. What I think all of these girls forget is that production isn't a real governing body. Production is a magical universe of creatives. And they're going to come up with, next episode is going to be for 3 badges.
Yeah. I was they have to know that it's coming because it's happened before.
And then the week after is going to be for 19 badges, and you get to keep 6. But you have to give 5 to a girl who is the 3rd daughter of the 5th son. It's going to be a weird spell. And at the end, Gurky is just going to jump off the platform anyway, and no one is going to defeat the Black Cauldron.
Yeah. No friends.
So
I agree, because I think that Chanel is going to have to win at some point in the next couple so that they can put down a certain number of badges and be like, this one's worth 5. So if Chanel happens to win, she gets to Shea Coulee her way into the finale. Like, she's gonna have to win. So like, don't worry, kids. Chanel will get her crown.
I don't think it was Shea's fault that they did that. And arguably, I think Shea could have won other challenges. And they chose not to give her the wins.
Shea's my second favorite queen of all time. I think she is literally the second most incredible performer to ever be on the history of RuPaul's Drag Race.
I mean, I think we're not using her full name. Abbott Elementary's Shea Coulee.
Oh my God. And I'm not saying that I don't think Shea is one of literally the greatest forces in the history of the world. I am saying that Shea Coulee bowled a 180 in a bowling tournament where some people were bowling in the 200s, and they realized that Shea Coulee is so much more talented than the game they served her, because it's not how talented is Shea Coulee, it's how talented is Shea Coulee at these 10 challenges. And so I don't know, I do think they're going to say to themselves at some point, oh dear, we can't send Chanel home with nothing. Chanel, what are you good at? Well, that's worth 6 badges this week. Didn't you know? Here, Chanel, come to the bag of badges.
We're giving this badge to the person who has the best Christmas house.
We are giving.
That's Mina.
We're giving 1 badge to the girl from season 1, and 1 badge to the girl from All Stars season 1. Both times you. And I'm not picking on Chanel. I think Chanel is so incredibly talented. But I'm being silly, but the most recognizable Pokemon in the entire universe is Pikachu. And if you ask me who the most recognizable Pokemon who can ever properly know fly is, which is a moving Pokemon, it can't be Pikachu. Yeah. Pikachu can't fly. He can surf, but he can't fly. And so when you set all of the challenges to be who's the best flyer, but you've asked the best electric creature to come to the party, they're never going to show up, even though they're expected to. So I think
the fish can't climb the tree.
That's the one. And so until Gilly Chanel learns how to shimmy up an oak, we are going to continue to see some weird shenanigans with the vote badges, and that's going to be what it is, because they're voted on. Production gets together and says, this girl should win. They're vote badges. They are not actually based on who achieved more. So That's my take. I also really want to say that I just love that Gottmik says in the preview for next week, I was playing fair game, but you're playing chess. That is, babe, don't you want to save trans lives? Babe, gorge babe. I mean, and I know she does, and he does, you know, because whether it's in or out of drag, but like, it is one of those things. Angeria is just playing for keeps. How do you guys feel going into next week where it's evidently a design challenge and they're making us think that Roxxxy is going to panic, but Roxxxy panicking about a design challenge is like Gargamel panicking about Smurf recipes. He's got it whether or not he wins. So...
Oh, the Kubrick stare. Here's the thing. Everybody wants a Naomi Smalls life's not fair moment, but nobody wants to be at the receiving end of it.
It's a blue moment. We can update it to a blue moment, right?
Oh. You'll get there, Tori.
I don't even know what it is.
And that's why I said it's one of the
Angina
smartest decisions
moment.
she can make for her own personal game. And at this point, you kind of have to be thinking about that. As Kevo said, you're only shooting yourself in the foot if you aren't thinking 3 steps ahead. If you aren't thinking, we're closing in on the finale. We have 4 challenges left, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then it's the finale. You have to be thinking about, okay, what is my path to victory? What is my win condition? Angeria recognizes right now that her win condition is Gottmik not being there. And it sucks because I want Gottmik there. And I'm sure Gottmik also really wants to be there. Especially because I think Gottmik had, but from last week where Gottmik didn't do as well as Gottmik wanted to, Mick was a little in her feelings and upset at like, this is normally something I could feel like I can count on myself, and I didn't deliver how I wanted to. And that sucks.
Nikki Glazer didn't deliver what she wanted. It's not her fault.
It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
Ah!
But so I think that this episode, Mick kind of had a reinvigoration of what am I fighting for? What am I doing this for? That's right. I want to do this for my charity. I want to win. That I think is adding to the level of the emotions. At the end of the day, Angeria can say that she was just paying Mick back for blocking her the second time and the first time. And fair is fair. Turnabout is fair play in that sense. I do think there might have been smarter decisions. That this was the smartest decision. I think that's what went into it. I do think Mick is entitled to her feelings, but that is also, you signed up for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think
she's lucky they haven't blocked her every time. She knows she's good. She knows she's got this. She can't be shocked. She can't be mad.
I think something we've talked about is that this is a weird season and concept to balance because it is for charity, but it is still competitive. And I think for the first several weeks of the season, everyone got a little bit too comfortable in thinking like, this is a kiki, this is for charity, this is, we're all just having fun. But like, it still hits when you're cut because you're not going home, but it is still a competition. And as you were further away from it, it was easier to just kiki and have fun. And now we're getting down to the end and people are realizing I don't have a badge. I don't have nearly as many badges as someone else. And, as much as I was saying I get Angeria's move here, yeah, that is a bold move and that is going to have repercussions, but it is also about being careful about how you escalate things. We talked at the beginning of this episode about Roxxxy escalating because of what she felt were antics after her antics were so much worse the previous episode. And, I get that being cut sucks, but you don't want to escalate. You don't want to raise the level of ferociousness in a way. You want to be competitive. You want to make sure you're trying to win and get to the end. But you also don't remember, again, it is for charity. And so you want to make sure that you are, nobody wants an ugly red nose day.
Be a sister.
Be a sister, not a hater. I need that on a shirt now. Be a sister, not a hater.
Well, we're I want to say we're halfway-ish through the season. We're a little more.
Yeah, because we're set. This was 7 out of 12, I think.
Okay,
but
so yeah,
the
we're just
first
over the
two
hump.
were a double drop, so we're literally halfway through the season.
Yeah, like we're
And-
halfway through runways that will get you badges.
And so I
Yeah.
find myself at a position where at the 6th of 11 weeks, at halfway through the drop cycle, we are kind of the best place we're going to be to look back, look forward, and say who we feel the front runners are. For my sake, I really thought Plastique and Gottmik were going to be the front runners. The one of them that has 3 badges, I'm maybe a little surprised about. But when I think about the fact that Gott's been cut twice and Plastique hasn't been cut at all, that maybe rings a little bit more true. While I would like to see Nina and Angeria shine for who they are, and not in Angeria's case for the drama of the show, and for Nina's case for the drama of not doing better, I really feel like Angeria has a clear path to the finale. If I had to make a guess, the person making a comeback to the forefront of things would probably be Chanel, but I would love to get everybody's kind of like quick triple slice. It's like it's an old-fashioned, like Dutch Gothic triptych, right? I would love to get your past, present, and future, and let's open that up. What do you guys think? Tori, I'm going to put you on the spot because you are amazing, brilliant, and one of my faves in the entire universe. Sitting here at week 6 of 11, how do you feel about the past, present, and future, Father, Son, and Holy Rue of this season of Drag Race?
I think, as someone who walked into this having not seen the All-Star 7, I was not as prepared for, it doesn't matter who is more talented, it's about the politics of the badges and the cut and the plunging and the cutting. And so for me, we could sing all day at the end of this about how someone was obviously the winner, but they just couldn't get anything. So yes, I still think that you always have to be careful about Gottmik. Roxxxy is always on the top of everyone's list. I think Angeria belongs there too. Plastiques are dark horse winner, our dark horse right now. I don't think, unless some super shenanigans start going on, Chanel's probably not going to crack up there. Nina could. I'm fascinated that they said 3 for the finale. I would have figured on 4, but that's fine.
That'd be half the show. So, I see why they can.
Good point.
Well, but they did this for All-Star 7 too, where it was like the top half was for the crown and the bottom half was for having hers. So
it's also a weird split. It's going to be 3 and 5 compared to the 4 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I think we're going to end up with 4 anyway. She'll talk a big game about 3 and then we'll get 4.
Twist!
I'm not new anymore.
She already thought hers is. It's actually true.
So that's where I'm at. Those are also outside of Plastique. Those were already my you better watch your backs. So that's where I'm living. Who do I think is going to win? If the top 3 is Gottmik, Roxxxy, Angeria, which would be my guess, what is the finale? A runway and a lip sync? Do we know?
We don't know for this season what they're going to be doing.
Then who knows? Gottmik's all around.
Probably
better.
something like that, though.
Yeah.
Jonah, you've weighed in a little bit, and just specifically in this part already. So I would love to get your take, past, present, future. How do you feel at 6 of 11, looking back, looking forward on this 11-week All-Stars with no eliminations?
Overall, I think I'm enjoying it. At the end of the day, I'm enjoying this. It is my favorite show in the entire world. I don't think that I'm having a bad time to actually getting to discuss it and talk about with some of my favorite people in the world. So none of that I'm having a bad time with. I am concerned that the chemistry of the cast is a little weird to watch because it comes across sometimes like they don't like one another. Like the very beginning of this episode was tense in a way that wasn't like it was uncomfortable and palpable how upset everybody felt about the results.
It was organic drama. Like they literally all clearly were not happy with one another. It was not faked.
No, and it was maybe surreal. Maybe I'm so used to not looking behind the curtain for the wizard that it was a little like, oh, this is like a family gathering. This is a little weird. I don't know how to react to this.
I shouldn't be here.
That's why I wasn't bothered. I was like, this is every week. This is fine.
We are all from Jersey.
Pulling my Brooklyn Heights, just putting the cushions on top of myself. It's like, can't we all just bottle things up? And if sometimes I don't know this, I hate to blame it on the edit in the opposite direction. I don't know if the editors are doing my favorite job this episode. It seems like things just feel weird, and it's not. I don't think it's the girls' fault outside of their chemistry, which feels a little stilted right now. I don't know how. I think something needs to kind of shake them up a little to either bond them or make them dislike each other a lot more. But the rest of the season, it just has a weird air to it. Not bad, just weird.
I love that. And, just as much as I value and respect everybody's opinion on this show, there was one person who did tip the scales with an extra feather. Jonah had been pushing me to watch forever, and TK was like, I think that's a good idea. And so I started watching, and I have a terrible TK impression. It's
fine.
It's bad. Do a Nico impression. I'll be flattered. But TK, I would love to know how you feel about me still. I guess you don't love me anymore. And I would love to know how you feel at week 6 of 11, looking back, looking forward, looking all sorts of ways. And I know you look all sorts of ways at Plastique.
I sure do, but never as a winner. No, I'm kidding. Going in, I did think Plastique. It was probably Mick, Plastique, and Angeria. I still actually think that could end up being the top 3. Roxxxy is doing great, but I could see Roxxxy, for instance, not taking it during the catch the snitch challenge, where you just automatically get an insane number of badges, and I could definitely see that being where Plastique kills it. So we'll see. I don't know. I went into this excited at the idea of nobody going home and it being for charity, and then immediately I saw what the problems could be, and lo and behold, those problems are problems, and those are not problems with the girls. I do feel those are problems with production not knowing what to do with this season that doesn't have the standard drama. For my money, I think it's probably Angeria to win. And it's still really interesting. I like that we're trying something new. I just hope we can move past some of this silliness. I'll be very interested to see where we go next week, starting out with Gottmik and going forward with the episode.
I think you are probably right by my money. I think it's sort of Angeria's to win.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why all the girls bully her so much.
Yeah.
And I think it is mostly a matter of, that is the phrase though. It is hers to win. Whether or not she can fumble that ball or any of the other girls can cut their way in. I think there are a few contenders. We said at the start of the season that we thought Roxxxy had better odds. I think she's still in the mix. I think Gottmik is definitely in the mix, and Chanel. Yeah, I think we've really been interested in and curious about the Chanel narrative. So those are probably my top 4. And I say this all the time though, I hate a top 3, and I'm really going to be annoyed if it is a top 3 lip sync. That does not usually work for me unless you've got a really big stage, and you don't usually do that for these smaller seasons. Maybe you will, and then I can enjoy it, but it just gets so chaotic when it's 3 people dancing at the same time. Who do you look at?
Well, my hope is that Chanel does manage to lose this season. No offense. and comes back twice more so that we can start referring to that season as Chanel number 5. But until that day comes and we all perfume up, Tori, I am so glad that you haven't sent a hit squad for that joke. And where can everybody find you if they want to hear all of the brilliance you have to share until next episode?
Yeah, you can watch me cue the sniper for Nico at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I. TK, or Jonah, where can people find you?
You can find me places at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK.
Well, Jonah, who are you going to throw it to?
I don't know who goes next. I don't really know.
Producer man.
That's the
Producer
one.
man, that's me. I am your producer man. And you know what? These are my little co-pilots. We had a really fun adventure last night doing a live watch of the Doctor Who season finale that you can find on this channel. We call out the timestamp so you can sync it up and watch it along with us. It was a lot of fun. We talked before, we talked after, and we had fun doing something like that. So we're gonna find some more content down the line to do fun things like that with. In the meantime, you can find me on the socials at Kevo Really. Now I'm gonna throw it to this guy. Teak, where can everybody at home find you?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can everybody find you?
So I don't know if everybody noticed, but this is actually a beautiful portrait I had commissioned of me. You can tell. So I just want to thank you all so much for being here with Brick Action as he hangs in the background. If you want to check out my music, you can check me out at Nico Action Music. That's NicoActionMusic. If you want to just check out me flexing, being stupid, saying jokes, thinking comics are religion, you can check that out at Nico Action No Music. That's NicoActionNomu. I'm kidding. It's just NicoAction. But there's 3 things we would love it if you guys would do. That is, number 1, like, comment, and subscribe. That's just for us. But if there's 3 things you guys could do for you, that would mean everything to us. It is, number 1, stay safe. It is a spooky, scary world out there, and we want to see you guys make it to tomorrow. And how do you do that? Well, you be brave. Never stop being you, because if you evolve daily, that's number 3. Who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, we love it. But who you are tomorrow, that's the dream, and we can't wait to be here with you. So until then, do all 6 things, and we'll see you. Sorry about the homework.